How our mates down under are one of the most secure economy, yet nobody talks about them. Well, let's talk about them. Most people know Australia from the chill mindset, vast empty areas, and animals that are trying to kill you with various methods. All of this is true, although there is much more to talk about here. First of all, size does matter here. Australia is huge, it's close to the United States in size, and it is larger than all of the European Union's countries combined, but it is much younger than any of those mentioned, since Australia has only about 250 years of history. Although it is huge, there are only 25 million residents on the continent, which in comparison is about as much as Taiwan. You could guess that it is not as densely populated as most modern countries, but this is not holding back the economy one bit. I'm not going to talk numbers here, mostly because if I don't put it next to other data, it would be meaningless. What we are going to dig into is the why. Why is it safe to be an Aussie right now, and why their economy is basically bulletproof? First, let's look at the geography. If you take a glance at the map, you could see there is quite a selection of different landscapes. From snowy mountains through rainforests to the scorching hot and flat outback, you have everything and in between. The major towns are located at the edges of the continent, thus, most of the country is undeveloped. More than half of the total population lives in these 5 major cities. Alright, so, enormous size, few people, diverse landscape. But why is their economy so resistant? Staying at geography, let's mention the continent's national treasures. Australia's mining industry is amongst the largest in the world, making up more than 10% of their GDP. As of now, with the war and supply chain issues, the need for commodities is rising rapidly, thus one of the main exports of Australia is rising in value. Energy production is based on coal and natural gas, but crude oil is also extracted, which makes Australia less dependent on energy prices and availability than others, which is a win itself. With new technologies getting widely available, Australia is in a good position for the use of solar and wind energy to decrease the energy deficit of the country. Other than nature's gifts and the smart use of it, the nation not only started farming, but did it in a sustainable way from the beginning. Thanks to the large plain fields of the country, there is space for thousands of large farms and ranches, producing more than enough for the country's needs and even exporting. This is true for both meats and other agricultural products too. The fact that if they were completely cut off from the rest of the world, yet they produce what they need is really rare. Very few economies are able to do that. Great education and thus professional services are also present in the country, alongside with the great time zone location for international relations too. Professional services area is the fastest growing field, enabling more and more business opportunities, attracting further international companies to settle in the country. All these factors add up, creating a really modern economy with concrete strong foundations and trusted trade partners with long history. Close integration with dynamic economies in Asia drives wealth creation in Australia for decades now. 12 of Australia's top 15 export markets are in the Asian region. This represents 3/4 of Australia's total exports of goods and services. Other than that, US is the second largest export market, and there are other small ones all around the world. All this couldn't have happened without the continuous smart decisions of the government. There is one thing though, which may seem crazy from the outside, as there is only a few countries around the world which do this. What is it? Well, you have to pay really high taxes after your income, and the more you earn, the less you get from it. There are thresholds which if you reach you have to pay more base tax, and a higher percentage on top of it. These numbers are not really high also. The highest grade is above 180,000 Australian dollars, which is about 120,000 US dollars. Just above 6 figures, and now you have to deal with excessive taxes for up to 61% of your gross income. This can be even higher for foreigners, thus protecting their own. If we think of a worst-case scenario, like it is in Europe right now, we can see how the continent could quickly turn self-sustaining. Let's say there is no energy import would make transportation more expensive, but the households and companies wouldn't need to shut down, since the energy is mainly from coal and natural gas, and we are not even talking about renewables, which is the future. Let's say there is a world war. There is currently no army in the world that could conquer such a vast land. Also, it would basically be useless in case of aggression, since one of their trading benefit is the close integration with many countries, and thus great free trade agreements. Without those, it is just a remote economy mainly with difficult to export commodities. Also, the distances within the major cities are not helping either. The general chillance of the residents are mainly based on these factors. They literally do not have to fear from anything else than nature, which is by the way only scary for the outsiders, as they say at least. Of course, there are disadvantages too, mainly due to the distance from other countries. For example, products that need to be imported cost significantly more than, for example, in the US or in Europe. Vehicles, which are generally difficult to ship, for example, are much more expensive to buy and maintain in Australia. Same with anything that is large and heavy, but for example, tech products are more or less the same price as anywhere else. There is no excessive taxation on anything.